everyone, I'm glad you're here once again to take your time to join me. I have spent 2 days looking into this issue about how Homeland Security had offered satellite phones to the U.S. senators. The United States has 100 senators. 50 senators took up the offer of the free satellite phones. There are 2 senators to each state. Which senators decided to accept the offer of the free satellite phones that they are supposed to keep either on them or within close proximity of them whenever they travel or wherever they may be. They have not said which senators took up Homeland Security to take the satellite phones. And I want to know why, after all these years when satellite phones have been available, why now, actually as of April, did Homeland Security decide now there was a threat, and more likely because of the need of continuancy of government. I even called my one senator here in South Dakota, John Thune's office, and I asked a lot of questions and got some interesting answers. Now, Homeland Security said that these satellite phones are going to be issued in the case of a disaster or a man-made incident, including potential chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or explosive events. It's not for rides because of January 6th or anything like that. This is strictly, in my opinion, for the continuancy of government, so they can get these senators to the bunkers or places that are safe in the event of different disasters, man-made incidents, as they call them, including potential chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or explosive events. And why now? Here in the prepper community, there has been a uptick in getting ham radios, CB radios, ways of communication if our grid goes down and the cell phones don't work. Here's an image of the order of succession and who would be next in command. Going down the list, we got the Vice President, Speaker of the House. Well, the Vice President would be Kamala Harris, Kevin McCarthy. We got Patty Murray, who is President pro tempore of the Senate. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Next would be Janet Yellen, who is the Secretary of Treasury. Next would be Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. Then we got the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Secretary of Interior, Deb Harlan. Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vlasic. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry. Secretary of Commerce. Okay, Gina Raimondo, Secretary of Labor. Then we got the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and the Secretary of Homeland Security. Yesterday I called my senator's office, John Thune, who is in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I talked to a very nice woman there, gave me lots of information. But what they are not doing, they being Homeland Security, was interesting. Satellite phones have not been given to their district offices. John Thune has 4 offices, one of them being in Rapid City. So if there was an emergency, he will not have access or contact with any of his home offices in his state. And this would go along with the other senators in their states to coordinate any type of emergency. These satellite phones were issued for them only, so they could have probably direct contact for evacuation. The woman I talked to said that the threats are really growing. I mentioned in the speech that I have posted on Rumble from Homeland Security discussing the cell phones that are being issued to the senators that wish to have them. It is an hour-long video of the hearing that you can watch. Like I said, I posted it to Rumble. Rumble is more of a free speech platform than YouTube has. I mentioned too, and I asked her about the increase in mental health services that have been offered to the Senate and their workers. That has increased in the last year 33%. And she said it was because of the constant threats that they get. I started to bring up the fact that nothing is being done with the FBI. The FBI has been politicized, about the corruption and the corruption within the family of Mr. Potato Head, and asked why my senator couldn't do anything about the corruption to push for an investigation or even criminal charges being brought up. And she said that was because he was not on the oversight committee. Well, you and I both know how the game is played there in Washington. Yeah, if you do me a favor in this, I'll pass or sign a bill that you want passed. And she said that John Thune doesn't work that way. He would not use blackmail to get an agenda pushed, such as the politicalization of the FBI. She has said that he has been very vocal about the corruption with Mr. Potato Head and his family. I said, well, words are cheap. Action speaks louder than words. And she said that he's not like that. He's not going to violate any law or do bribery with bills to get things done. I says, that's the problem. You know, when, example, gun rights. When you take away the gun rights from law-abiding citizens, it's only the bad guys that have the power. And it's the same thing with our government. When certain people decide that they're going to follow the law and the bad guys don't follow the law, well, the bad guys win. I started to bring up about the military age of immigrants coming across the border, and she jumped right in. She mentioned the Chinese. She was really concerned about the military age Chinese coming across our border. Along with that, of course, would be the cartels and all the drugs. Today, I went to court with my daughter and sat in to see what was going on. And there was probably 30 to 40 cases. Except for 3 were fentanyl arrests. Can you believe that? It used to be that was drunk drivers and bad check writing or stealing someone's property. Every one of them except 3 was charged with fentanyl, with possession or selling of fentanyl. Every one of the cases. I was shocked because in the past when I sat in at court, yeah, it was petty crimes, it was assaults, drunk driving, but today it was probably 99% fentanyl. This here is the inside of the Senate building, the Russell Senate offices. Cell phone or satellite phones would not work very well inside of a building. Karen Gibson, she evidently is a retired 4-star general. And she went on to say how these cell phones that were issued to government officials were probably not as secure in cyber threats, and that satellite mobile phones could help maintain command and control functions during an emergency when existing communication networks are not functioning. She said that these phones are designed to be relatively rugged and simple to operate, but are more expensive than cell phones to buy and use. Like I said, these satellite phones, because they're only given to the senators and not to their offices, are strictly probably for their evacuation in the time of national emergency. They have also opened up, evidently, what they call a demonstration space in the basement of the Russell Senate office building, which offers lawmakers and staff security upgrades in their home states. They have even offered to go to different politicians' homes to do a security walkthrough, upgrades, cameras, show how they can change their homes to make it more secure from outside threats. They evidently also have a video screening room where they can go and watch videos about how to protect themselves during threats, either when they're traveling or at home or working. So we do know that the threat between China and Russia, world events, has increased lately. So I would like to know which 50 senators received the satellite phones. Why did they wait until now to hand them out? And who these people are. Here's an image of taken from that video during the conference. You can see it's a very small room, and there wasn't really a lot of people present. It was held, I believe, on April 28th, and we're just now hearing about it. And it was a hearing entitled FY 2024 Budget Requests for Sergeant of Arms and Doorkeeper of the Senate and the United States Capitol Police. Here's an image of the satellite phones. Like I said, they do not work very well inside buildings. So we got the satellites, we got different types of aircraft that it could be sent to, fiber networks it could be sent to. Evidently, they can connect with cell phones if the cell phones are working, at least in text messaging. Here's a paper, I'll give you a link to it, about these satellite phones. How satellite mobile phones work. Satellite mobile phones are handsets that use satellites to communicate with landlines, cellular, or other satellite phones. The satellite receives the information, signal, voice, or text from the sending phone and transmits it back to Earth to a receiving satellite phone. The omnidirectional, meaning all different directions, or directional antenna in the mobile phone is used both for transmitting and receiving the signal. Satellite phones generally require a line of sight to the sky to receive a signal for service. As a result, the satellite phones do not work well indoors, although operation might be acceptable if the phone is positioned near a window. Reminds me of the old cell phones. You had to lean out near the glass window to get them working. That's the same way evidently now with the satellite phones. Mobile phones using satellite phone systems can provide communication to ships, vehicle, planes, and other ground-based phones and command centers. Now, we also know how these different governments have been working on systems to take out satellite systems. Satellite phone systems use synchronous equatorial orbit, GEO, or low Earth orbit, LEO, at satellites. GEO satellites orbit about 36 kilometers, or 22,400 miles above the Earth equator, remain in a fixed position in the sky and can provide near continuous global coverage with only a few satellites. GEO satellite phone systems may introduce a noticeable delay while making a phone call or using data service due to long signal transmission distance. Whereas LEO satellites move with respect to the ground. At least one satellite must be in line of sight to every coverage area at all times. Depending on the position of both the satellite and the user phone, a pass of an individual LEO satellite will typically provide 4 to 15 minutes of coverage. Thus, a network comprising as many as 60 satellites is required to maintain continuous coverage. There's many examples of different types of satellites. They do have two here, and it says satellite mobile phones, InSmart and iSat phones too. Uranium Extreme. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, sorry. Like I said, I was told that the different senators do not have satellite phones to communicate with their state home offices. These phones are only for them in a state of emergency, probably for their extraction to a safer location. So basically, us as the United States citizens would be on our own. Thus, we would have a need to get up-to-date information for our area, and that's why so many people are looking into ham radios, CBs, things like that. So would Mr. Potato Head deliberately start a war, a nuclear war, a biological war, just to stay in office because of the revelations, what's going on with, the corruption there? Who are actually the people behind the scenes that would push the button and start a war? What are your thoughts? Please put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. As always, keep prepping. Be prepared. This is just another example of when the shizzy hits the fizzy, you're on your own. So many people think that the government is going to come to your rescue, and they are not. So being prepared, you're going to be one step ahead. And from what I saw with all those brought up with crimes in court today, 99% of the people would not survive any type of world or national disaster. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.